I'm John Rowland with Highland Park Lapidary, and I am going to do a little video today talking about the standard HP vises. There's kind of a history behind the vise design, and it's simple, but there's one thing about it that is not necessarily obvious to everyone, and is probably the #1 cause for vise failures on this particular design of vise. Now basically the way the vise is designed is it's got a moving jaw, so this lock here allows you to lift it up and you can move the jaw along into the different teeth and then tighten it up. Now one of the things that you'll see is this lock can move in this slot and allow you to pick which tooth you want to go onto. Now I'm just, for the purpose of this, to demonstrate this, I am just clamping on a piece of steel. And so as I slid the lock forward, you can see as I tighten it, this pin starts to tighten down on the vise and push the jaw forward. And when I tighten it up, I'm just doing it by hand. I can use 2 hands if I want to. Basically, as I tighten this up, then you'll see this is really securely held. There's no way that you're going to move this. No amount of effort's going to move that. It's really clamped on. Now, what you'll notice is that when I clamp this in there, I moved this lock all the way forward. So there's a gap back here, but there's hardly any gap up here. I went to the furthest on tooth. Now I'm going to loosen this, and I'm going to do, unfortunately, what a number of people will do when they don't really understand this. I'm just going to put the lock in there. Now you'll notice the gap is at the front. The lock is almost touching this back rib. Now when you go to tighten this up, when it's in that position, it causes you a problem. It tightens up, and now I'm pushing on it and I go, oh, my piece is loose. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to demonstrate what everybody does when they get this thing. My rock is still moving. I must not have this tight enough. So I'm going to get the cheater bar and I'm going to really make sure this sucker is tight. So, you know, I'm going to do what a lot of the old timers do. I'm just cranking it down. Now, what happens, and you see it right here, I'm starting to crack the casting because I'm pushing this. Is pushing on the back of this rib against that. It's not actually pushing the jaw forward. It's just pushing against itself. Now I'm going to go ahead and undo that, and you'll see exactly what happened. And this is why when you find old Highland Park saws, a whole lot of them have broken jaws. So there, I broke the casting at the back and cracked it over here. Now this is a lot of people, when they look at this, they go, oh, well, this is a bad casting. It's a cheap casting that came from China. Well, the reality is the amount of force that I generated to do that was incredible. This is a thick rib here. I broke this rib, and I was leaning on the cheater bar pretty good. And it was all because when I had the jaw on, I didn't put it in the proper position. I was back here, I didn't leave myself a gap, and so when I started pushing, the lock pushes on the back of the jaw and the front of the jaw, so it's just pushing between these 2 points, and it's going to try and blow that rib out. On my machines, I change this mold to make that rib thicker, so it can take more abuse, but if somebody puts the lock in and does it wrong, then they can break their vise, particularly if they use a cheater bar. So, to save everybody the trouble of breaking a vise and damaging your equipment when you really don't need to, that's the proper way to use the vise lock on this. You get it all the way to the front. With these old machines, there's been a number of people that have come to us, probably just in the 24s alone, we probably sold 200, 300 jaws, all told probably 400 or 500 jaws for old machines that people would see as junk. I mean, I know personally I passed up old machines when I saw that the jaw was broken because I I just didn't want to mess with it because I couldn't get the parts. When we started making them, there was a lot of these saws we could put back into service because I could just put a new jaw on. But the real key here is, if you use the vise properly, you won't break that back rib out of the jaw ever.